Well, good morning. Have you figured out what we're doing yet? Kind of putting the clues together, the pieces and portions and parcels and whatnot. We're out here tearing down wheel lines, loading them on these semis and hauling them back to the ranch. Kind of an exciting time, though it is a very tedious job, I will say that. So let me just back up real quick and share with you how this has all come together. If you've been following along on the channel for a long time, like a lot of you have, you'll remember that 2 summers ago, we had the last year of our really bad 3-year drought. And we went through a lot of hardships, a lot of struggles, a lot of trials based off of that drought, right? That were driven by that. As we've moved forward out of the drought, we've tried to learn from it. Last year was a pretty solid summer. Just had nice rain throughout the year. You know, you got to remember, we are basically a dry land operation. We rely on the rain. We've learned some things like that we can raise oats because we got to rotate our hay fields anyway, so we can rotate it with oats, combine those oats, supplement our hay with those oats, and cut back and feed way less hay to our cows, you know, thereby saving us some hay for the next year, help allowing us to keep some more reserves. Just some of these little things that we've figured out. One of the other things that we've wanted to develop is some form of irrigation. Now on the ranch right now, we have this little seasonal creek that runs through the ranch. And in the springtime, when the runoff comes out of the mountains, it runs enough that we're able to flood irrigate through a couple of ditches that we have. A little bit of the ranch, right? And we're able to get just a little bit of water out onto the fields. Well, we've wanted to develop that irrigation. A lot of people mention it in comments during the drought. You should look into developing irrigation. The problem is irrigation is very expensive, extremely expensive. For example, to put up a pivot, which is the irrigation machine that runs in a circle, most of you see them when if you're flying in an airplane, you look down, you see those, they look like circles on the earth. That's from a pivot form of irrigation. Unbelievably expensive. We looked into that. It was going to cost about $125,000, $140,000 for the machine. And then because of the nature of where we live and the electrical requirements of that machine, about another $100,000 to $125,000 additionally to bring 3-phase power all the way in 1.5 miles to the pumping location where we would try to pump out of this seasonal water source. Now, the problems with that, well, you're going to wrap $250,000 up, which is a lot of money. Less money than it used to be, but it's still a lot of money. You're going to wrap that up in a irrigation project that some years may not allow you to even use the water because it's a seasonal thing. And if that little creek's not running, then you don't got water for your pivot. We can't pump it out of the earth. There's not nearly enough water below us. Well, fast forward to this year, I get a phone call from my good friend Holton Tuna. Remember Tuna? We hauled some cattle together last fall. He has the green Kenworth. They farm a lot of barley over here in north central Montana. And he calls me and says, "Hey, I'm putting up a little pivot." You can see his little pivot over there. He goes, "I'm putting up a little pivot on this corner of my place, and I have these 2 old wheel lines that I've been using. They're good wheel lines. They've been running, been using them, all the time here. but we're getting rid of the wheel lines. Cut me an amazing deal on these wheel lines. Says, I want them gone, need them out. We got to get this pivot ready to roll shortly. Bring your trucks over, take them down, load them up. They're yours for pennies. To give you a reference of the deal that he hooked me up on, 2 of these 1/4 mile wheel lines and the main line, $3,000. Okay, we don't have to invest the hundreds of thousands, the $250,000 that it would take to put a pivot in. So after chatting with Rooster and my mom, we decided, let's roll the dice on this. Now, this is an antiquated form of irrigation, right? Like, people that have pivots, like, they're all like, oh, the wheel line days. Wheel lines are such a pain. You got to go move them twice a day and all that. Well, we're coming from like nothing. So even having some sprinklers would be amazing. But this is the whole key of why we decided to do this with wheel lines. Yes, I know they're not nearly as nice as pivots, and those of you out there with pivots know what I'm talking about. However, this is a $3,000 investment, a week's worth of my time to take them down, haul them back, and re-erect them out in our field. We're, instead of going with the electrical power that was going to cost so much money to bring in that 3-phase electricity, gonna get a diesel pump. Still don't know if this whole project is even gonna produce water. Do we have enough water? Does that creek, when it runs off in the spring, provide enough water power? We do have the water right on the creek, so we're totally square to use the water, but will there be enough to power sprinklers? It's all kind of unknowns, and it's just very unknown, right? So let's do a $3,000 investment, a week's worth of time, plus let's get an irrigation pump for, $6,000 or $8,000, and set that system up, use it, and see if it works. Diesel irrigation pumps kind of hold their value. As long as it's running and working, you're gonna get your money back out of your pump. We can write the whole thing off as a adventure we tried and didn't work. But that's where we're at. It's a huge step in security for the ranch, if it all works. If it doesn't, what it is. But I'm willing and excited to try it. Huge thanks to Holton for hooking us up with such a great deal on this wheel line. We got most of it tore down. We got to load these things up, figure out how to puzzle piece them onto the back of these trailers, and load up the main line. And we're hoping to get out here this afternoon. Here's the main reason we got to go. You noticed all the smoke yesterday? Over here in this area, they burn all this stubble off in the spring. They to get rid of the residue, they burn it off. And so they're coming to burn this field after lunch. So we have a few hours to finish this up, hopefully get it all loaded up. Ooh, buddy, getting some steps in. Best I can tell, these are 40-foot pipes. Not overly heavy, just kind of awkward. So I've got the tractor with the sporks going around gathering up all these pieces. They got a sprinkler on one end, you gotta be careful. This is the money makers here. You don't want to ding them up. Not really sure how to fit all this on. There's not like I'm sure there's a scientific way or something, but we're just making the best of what we got. So anyway, I'm loading these up. Got a hair in my mouth. Big Rob's overloading wheels, kind of figuring out how those strap on, and just doing the deal with it. Man, getting a workout in today. Definitely helping my fitness journey with Be Lean Fitness. They'll be happy to hear about this little project. Man, oh man, they're not giving us a whole lot of cushion. We got a lot of strapping yet to do. Some piping to load, strapping action, and they're starting the back burn. The wind's blowing real hard to the west, and they're doing a back burn. So it'll slowly burn up towards us. They'll build a big fire line. Then they'll run to the top of the field and sweep it across. Top of the field over there, sorry. Sweep it across. So I'd say we got another good 20 minutes and we gotta get moved. You guys, it's a little windy. Hope you can hear me all right. We got her. We got all the wheels, like 6 million of them on the Kenworth. We ended up getting the main line This is the big main pipeline that you run the wheel lines off of. We got the movers over here. Everything's stripped, strapped. We're gonna have to go down the road. You guys, I want you to meet new face on the channel, Big Rob. Man, he's getting kind of a break in today.
Yeah, a little
this
bit.
week, sort of.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's been introduced to really rusty, crusty cow trailers that we've been rebuilding underneath. And today, introduced to the old field work, I guess it is, technically.
Yeah.
First time working on like a farm, doing this kind of thing?
Yeah.
More or less?
Yeah.
He's been around the cattle a little bit, been around a little everything. That's why we got him. Met Big Rob out on the NASCAR trail. If you go back and watch a few NASCAR videos, he's kind of in here and there on a few of those when we were all kind of hanging out, barbecuing, cooking. But now he's a Montana man, so he's done great today. Let me show you the rest of what we decided to do. Putting all the actual wheel lines. So this is the line that the wheels, you can see the marks where the wheels were all attached. Anyway, those are all on my lead trailer. Got them all bundled in there, super light. I know some of you might be looking going, oh man, this is all gonna fall off because it doesn't have pipe stakes and all that. Don't need them for this, just really don't need them. These things are light enough you can lift them yourself. They're 42 feet long and you can lift them over your head. So real light and crafty, and we're just gonna go down the road a ways. And I'm sure we're gonna have to tweak and adjust and whatnot, as you usually do with loads. But here it is. Already burned. You can see the black. They've burned a back line, basically a backfire. It's windy. It's basically a big fire line. So when the big raging fire hits that, there's about a 40-50 yard stop there. It's going to keep everything handy and beautiful. And then up here along the north side of the field, they're burning a line going in. Let me zoom out. Burning a line going into the south, and that'll protect this wall in case something should want to try to get into the shelter belt of the trucks. And the wind's coming from the southwest, so they don't have to do one over on the other side of the field, I don't believe. Once this is burned out, they'll head up to the west side and light it, and it's going to burn across this field, I bet, in about 10 minutes. We're heading out on the bike. We want to go see what's going on. Get you a little, try to get some rolling footage of this back burn that they're doing here. So Holton's back there on the four-wheeler. He's just dragging a propane torch behind him, and it just drags along and lights the fires. And he just goes back and forth about every 10, 12 feet, just making a bunch of little back burns. And we're this close. We're just about ready to go. They're being extra careful today. The wind is really blowing, which is okay and actually very helpful so long as you take the proper precautions. As you see, there's this house over here too, so really trying to make sure they do a lot of these back burns and really get a really big dead spot, so when we light the west side of this fire, I mean, it will just boom, it'll be gone. Go check out this other side of the field here. This is kind of back over by where the trucks were parked at. So here's the first burn. There's a pivot that runs across the middle of this field. So this is kind of the first mini burn. So he lit this and it's shooting across with the wind now. You can really see it ripping. really smart today, actually. Looks like they're gonna cut the field and do it kind of in 2 halves instead of just one big swoop. They're gonna draw a line all the way across the middle of the field, burn it down, and then they'll have a giant backstop, and you'll have no issues at all whatsoever. They got a little fire command over there. Hit any hot spots that might jump the ditch or try to get in the borrow pit. We'll cruise out across here. You can see how quick. It's just been a minute. I mean, I just came around the other side of the pivot and the fire's already out of sight. Long down and gone. We'll go make sure everything's looking good on this side over here. It's kind of like an apocalyptic, you know, moonscape kind of deal when you're driving out here in the smoke and you can't really see anything and what's what, but it's been a part of what they've done here forever and ever since I was my whole life. So since we moved away, you never get to be a part of it, so it's kind of fun to come over and check it out. Now we're kind of over on the north side of the field, and I believe, I'm not sure, Holton's off burning and running around in the torch, but I think that this part of the field over here, I feel like maybe they baled some straw off of it, and so there's not as much residue. Where I just was, when you saw just the apocalypse plume, I think they had spread the straw over there, so there's a lot of residue. That's why that was really kicking up. I feel like over here, as light as the fire is, I think they baled a lot of the straw, so it'll just be some little light fires, which is why I'm driving over here through it. Not as worried about a giant wall of crazed dog coming at me. Just like that, it's all gone. Just as quick as it came up, it's all vanished away. There's nothing. It's just the whole thing, poof. Looks like the house over here is safe and handy and dandy. No probs, couple burning cow turds. A lot of these farmers will rent this, they call it stubble. They'll rent their stubble out to some of the cattlemen that want to graze their cows on it out here. Yeah, that gave you a little taste anyway, just a little snippet. Maybe next spring we'll have time to get over here when we're not loading wheel lines, and we could, you know, get the drone out and do some stuff. There's a lot of stuff to film over here. I got a lot of things I need to catch up on over here and show you and do, but only so much time in the day. So anyhow, we are gonna get down the road, you guys, and see what kind of treasures await. I really hope everything's smooth. Rob and I are both smoked, very tired, not sleepy, just wore out, sun-baked, fun-baked, and hopefully everything rides smooth. I don't want to deal with any issues.